right, good evening, everyone. I'd like to welcome you to the Summers County Board of Education regular meeting, April 9th, 2024, 5 p.m. Let the minutes reflect that all 5 board members are present. We will go to agenda item 2, Pledge of Allegiance. I'd like to ask Mr. Robert Bowling if he would lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Teacher in the high school.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. All right, item 3, approval of agenda with adjustments.
I move that we pull Diane Renee Farley, Kenneth Brogan, R.T. Rogers Oil, and Safe and Sound Security from the bills to be paid separately.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Harvey, that we pull Diane Farley, Kenneth Brogan, R.T. Rogers, and Safe and Sound from the bills and handle those separately. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that we will handle those bills mentioned separately when we get to the bill approval. Any other adjustments or approval of the agenda?
I also would like to move that we move item number 10 in old business to just above the superintendent's report on number 13.
Okay, I'll second that. Motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by myself, that we move item 10 to just above the superintendent report. There's item 13 in the agenda. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Abstaining? Minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote. Item 10 will be moved to just above the superintendent report at item 13. Any other adjustments?
I'll move that we approve the agenda as read with the aforementioned changes.
Second.
I have a motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that we approve the agenda as read with the aforementioned adjustments. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the agenda has been approved with the previous mentioned adjustments. All right, public comment. We have 2. First, we'll start with Mr. Daniel Ball on the upcoming football program status.
First of all, I want to thank you, Superintendent Wervil, board members, Ms. Farley, Mr. Angel, Mr. McBride, Mr. Brogan, Ms. Harvey. My dad sat in your all seat, so I understand like transparency, how important that is to hold school system accountable, and all of you all for your dedication to Summers County. First off, I want to thank you all for letting me speak at this meeting. As many of you all know, I applied and was hired as assistant football coach here in 2021. When the head football coaching job was vacant, I applied for the position because, quite frankly, since coming here, I fell in love with the community. I fell in love with the student athletes, the school, and you all as a community. The last 3 years here have been amazing. I want to take time to thank you, Dr. Green, Athletic Director, Ms. Blevins, Mr. Woods, and Mr. Franklin, as they compiled up, the committee, the search for the new high school head football coach. During the interview process, they were very professional. And above all, I could tell through the process, they care about the kids of Summers County. They were precise and professional from start to end. As a former athlete and now coach, I can tell you I'm a very competitive person. And at the end of the process, as you all know today on the agenda, we're hiring a new head coach. Summers County's won. Therefore, I've won. Coach Pugh is from here and someone I've known for years. And somebody I know that has pride of this program and community. I just want to let you all know I will be remaining on staff as assistant football coach. Yep. Mr. Pugh's a wonderful man, father, husband, and son. He is also an amazing co-worker. As you all know, me and him both work together, and someone I consider a brother. I can promise you in the short time of us just talking about this program, the student athletes, students, faculty, school, and community is going to be proud to see the product that we put on the field. I'll leave you with this. Pete Carroll once said, each person holds so much power within themselves that needs to be let out. Sometimes they just need a little nudge, a little direction, a little support, a little coaching, and the greatest things can happen. I'll add this, and through the interview process, one of my favorite things I always say, and as I've coached some people you all know, I tell them to work hard, but I'm gonna love you harder. My hope is that this new staff here, we're gonna have some fun nights at Garden Stadium as a community. Beyond that, I hope our program becomes a factory of developing great young men on and off the field and in our communities. Again, thank you all for your time. Thank you.
Thank you for your
Most
comments.
unusual public comment. It's much appreciated.
No, like, listen, I know a lot of it's like coming at you all, but like, I just want to let you all know, like, Mr. Orville, all you all, I appreciate you all and everything you do for these kids. I grew up in a small town in Kentucky. It reminds me a lot of him and why I fell in love with the place. And I thank you all for trusting me with your kids. It means a lot.
We appreciate,
Thank you.
we appreciate what you all do with our kids too. Thank you. All right, the next public comment we have is individuals from Jumping Branch Tabernacle on repaving the parking lot.
He was so eloquent in his introduction. After what he said. And like him, I appreciate what you're gonna do. It's a hard job. Doesn't matter how you do it, you're gonna have people that don't like the way it is. So what I'm here for, I'm a member of the board of the Jump Branch Tabernacle. Tom's one of our pastors. And 16 years ago, we paved the parking lot in coordination with the school board. What was going on at that time? The school board had the little parking lot in front of the Jump Branch Elementary, parking 3 deep. If somebody needed out, 2 people had to back into the state road for the 3rd guy to get out. So it wasn't a real good situation. So I don't remember, it's been 16 years ago, I'm getting older. I can't remember whether the board came to us, but it was a consensus that to pave the parking lot, stripe it, make it safer for everybody to park and everything. So we did that, and at the time, I think basically split the cost of what the paving was. And so over 16 years of time, it's in still good shape, but it is doing what paving does. It's deteriorating. I paced it off this morning and I'm a surveyor, so it's reasonably close, more or less. Right. So
More or
there's
less.
about 200 feet of crack in the paving lot, in the parking lot. Some of the cracks probably close to 1 inch or better. So what happens? Water goes down in the paving, it freezes, paving starts moving, and then we get into trouble where we got to start from scratch. So I asked Keith Whitaker. I should have brought 5 or 6 of these. I brought 2.
That's all right.
Y'all can carry. I asked Keith Whitaker to give us a bid on paving the parking lot and first of all sealing those cracks. He said he could just seal the cracks and we could get by, but it's kind of, my opinion, it's kind of like putting a Band-Aid on. The pavement starts moving again, starts opening, and then back here another couple of years trying to do it again. And so what he recommended is sealing the cracks, putting 2 inches of paving, compacting that, and then restriping and doing it to be safe for everybody. Initially with the board, it was going to be just cars parked there. The buses weren't going in the parking lot, which the buses are a lot heavier. There's more wear and tear. But Over time, the school, and we talked to them about it, wanted to make a different route for the buses because the buses were having to back up and it was dangerous. Obviously, we want what's best for the kids, so we're like, fine. To say that the buses or people parking there is why it's cracked, I don't know. It's just cracked and needs repaired. So what we'd like to do that, the bid, as you can see, there was 25,000, and we're 16 years into it. We paved on gravel, and now we'd be paving back over on a better surface. So I'm assuming we'd have that much or more time from here. What we talked about as a board was that we would want to, and we did it initially, and I don't remember what the time period was. We had like a written up lease, I think, of how the school would be able to use it. So what we thought, if it would be agreeable with you all, do like, if you all would be interested in doing this, and we'd probably do it either way, honestly. That's not a good thing to do when you're negotiating, you say we're gonna do it either way. But we would like something in writing as a church, in the day and time that we live in, to protect us, and to protect you all. If you're gonna invest in it, you ought to have insurance that you're gonna be able to use it. So set up maybe at this point, like a 10-year non-exclusive lease where the board could use it, the school could use it. Whenever they want to use it, we wouldn't be responsible while they're using it, which seems reasonable. And the only thing we would want in that is that, and it's happened very infrequently, but if we had a funeral, probably not so much a wedding or something that we really needed the parking lot for, we would go to the principal, let them know, that we need it for that next day or whatever it is. And again, we've had a wonderful relationship with the school. They use the church for, if they need a space for an event or something like that, we try to work with them on that. So we expect that to continue. And the 10-year thing, we just have to set a time. 10 years from now, I'll be older. I probably won't remember this meeting. Hopefully, but I'm sure it will carry forward. I mean, like I said, we want what's best for the kids, obviously. So we're just setting that as something to assure the board, this is what we're doing. So, anybody have any questions or?
We aren't allowed to ask.
Oh, you're not allowed to?
No.
I would recommend that we put this on our next meeting as an agenda item. Can we add this to the 16th meeting? Or do we need to push?
I would like to see if Mr. Metter and I could sit down and talk with these guys and maybe work on an MOU together. And then also see with our attorneys on, this is a good bid, don't get me wrong, but we have to follow, if we participate in anything, because like a bus turnaround, we do gravel those areas because buses do crush gravel over a year. So we do pay for that, and I think that's reasonable for us to look at this together as a team. And then we would have to bid it out and put it in the paper, because this price already is saying, it's not like you guys would pay and then we would pay. We would have to bid it out, because you can't just piecemeal this stuff with our policy 8200 with state code. That makes sense. So we would have to sit down and walk you guys through that, because I don't think it's a problem for us to work on. If we're tearing up the property, we should help and make it right. So I think we could just sit down and we could bring it to another board meeting with us to get together. Because I'd like to see everything you're talking about, and then we could bid it out and get bids and then go down that route. Not that this person isn't right. I mean, we just can't take one bid. You see what I'm saying?
Well, we would still be participating in, I mean, we're not expecting the board just to do it.
Right.
It would be nice if they did, but we're not expecting. And so we would, we would still want to join in. I don't know how that would work.
Well, that's why if we sit down and have that conversation, I think that would help us all.
Okay.
And I can even grab one of the board members to be part of that, just to, the way you're looking at me, Mr. Brogan, you look like you want to volunteer.
Well, we have.
Okay, so maybe if we get Mr. Brogan, Mr. Matter, myself, and you guys, we can meet you at the church. I think it would be, because it's not like we're saying no or yes, it's just, once we know more, then we can know what we're allowed to do as a public entity on what we can do to assist, because we are tearing up the property, if you will, because that's what buses do on turnarounds all the time. We pay
If I
for
can interject, I mean, it's obvious that the agreement has worked, but I
Yeah.
also know from being on that side of the table, that in 16 years, policies changed.
and people change.
And what happened, I know there was a lot out from where the old board office was. It was taken over and the board paid it for parking. And at that same time, if I'm remembering correctly, that's when we were approached by the board if we wanted to do that so that they could use it. And it's been an amicable, to say the least, arrangement between the two. You probably are the only elementary school in the state that has a key to the building next door in case you have to move kids from your building to a safe place. And that's what Mr. Green and I, we worked together when he was up there and stuff. So, and we understand. And whatever you need to do, sure.
Let's get their contact information and we'll get together with you guys as soon as we can.
I guess the only thing I could add to that is we certainly want somebody reputable that's gonna do this.
I think we'll wind up back here because I can't imagine a bid lower than what that is.
I'm not saying that it is.
Yeah.
I think it's reasonable. I really do.
I have known in the past, people that fly through here, offering to blacktop people driveways. Literally painted them with
Paint the gravel black.
asphalt sealer, cash the check, and we're out about town.
Yeah.
But obviously, we just want somebody that's gonna be,
Mhm.
thank you all.
All right.
Didn't mention you all by name, but thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Not better than the 4.5 deposition that I did last week for the survey.
All right, next
Well,
item.
it is now for you probably.
Next item, item 5, the levy discussion. We had a meeting at the Memorial Building yesterday. Discussed levy, just one of the public input meetings that we've had, like the other meetings throughout the county. The next meeting, I believe, is the 27th of
Yeah.
April,
Kirk's Restaurant.
Kirk's Restaurant.
8:30 in the morning,
Mhm.
coffee and biscuits.
Any discussion?
I need to try to throw out some dates that works for you or whoever to schedule a meeting or two down at the high school.
Yeah, we probably need to start looking at that. I think that'd be good. Just while you're getting ready to talk about that, here's the notes from last night. So I'm gonna, because I know not everybody was there, but that's what the comments were. So that will be for you guys to look over. For those of you who were there, we had some people bring up comments about more communication. They didn't know that there was a levy, or they heard about it, but they don't know much about it. And so they asked questions about it. So these are some ideas that people threw out last night at the meeting, a better way to publicize it. But people have to understand, we can't do anything but give information. So these are some ideas that were thrown out there at the meeting. And so Dr. Knott typed these notes out for you guys to have. So thank Dr. Knott for putting it together for us. But if you want to throw out dates, I think that's what you were saying, Mr. Werner.
Well, I mean, you're the one with the crowded calendar probably, so. Well, do we think we need to do it after the Kirk's thing?
I don't mind doing it this month. Doesn't matter to me. The 14th.
Yeah, May 14th.
The one thing is, on the 25th, I was gonna tell you my superintendent's report. That's the evening that we have Teacher of the Year, Service Personnel of the Year, 25th of April. So we want to stay away from that night on the 25th, but, I basically can do any evening you want to do. I mean, it's better to probably do an evening for people to come at 6, I would assume, unless you guys tell me different.
I don't know, like 25th maybe?
That's the one we're
That's the
staying away
one,
from.
that's a Teacher of the Year and
Oh,
service.
I was on the wrong month, sorry.
Go to April.
It's be the week after that, Tuesday, the Or Thursday the 2nd. I just think this is gonna be something like cramming for a test. I think the more you do in the last few days is probably gonna be more impactful. But that's just my opinion.
So Thursday, May 2nd, 6 p.m. at the high school? Is that what you're looking at?
Mm-hmm. I'm available.
Any further discussion? Not, we'll move on to item 6, presentations. Pause for applause. We have Mr. Robert Bowling, who's going to discuss the Jennings Randolph Award with us.
I brought this, so you guys might need to check it out there. I will be brief. My students probably wish I would make the same promise to them. But anyway, just give you a little bit of background. James Randolph was a longtime congressman from West Virginia. And during the Vietnam War, we had people that were getting drafted into the military, but they couldn't vote in elections. And at that point, the voting age was 21. And he thought it was kind of ludicrous that we could ship somebody to South Vietnam where they could shoot at someone, they'd get shot at themselves, and not be able to participate in the government that was making those decisions. So he lobbied for a fairly extended amount of time. You would think that was a pretty reasonable thing to ask, but it took a while for him to eventually push it through. And as a result of his efforts, and the number skips my mind right now about how long, but it was the course of years that it took him. But eventually, by a narrow margin, actually got past the 26th Amendment, which allows 18-year-olds to be able to vote. So being from West Virginia, I think he was from the Clarksburg area. Some really smart Secretary of State at some point, I don't think it was our current one, but at some point thought that it would be wise in an effort to encourage high schools and students of high schools to get their kids registered to vote, that they would start giving out an award. We have won the award, I think, 4 times. I was going to walk to the office. We got them displayed up there. But I was running behind because I had to go get pizzas for the youth league. Anyway, so I think this is the 4th time. And actually, I probably shouldn't admit this, but this award's for getting 100% of your senior class signed up to vote. There's actually another award for getting 85%, and we got it the past 2 years. And I was kind of ignorant of the rules of the game, so to speak, and didn't turn in our stuff because I thought it was 100% or nothing. So we've actually, over the course of the last, I'll say 6 years, 7 years or so, we've had a really high rate of getting kids registered to vote. Some years it's easier than others. I won't lie to you. The COVID years were harder in that I didn't see every kid on a day-to-day basis. It was a little hard to kind of nudge them, say, hey, did you fill out that form? Did you fill out that form? And then occasionally we have some students that are kind of cantankerous. And if I encourage them to vote, or encourage them to register to vote, they decide that is the last thing that they want to do. So it doesn't always happen like that. But anyway, but this year, fortunately, with the help of Brandon Isaac, I got a lot of them signed up. But then the ones that I didn't get, I put Brandon on. And so the Secretary of State recognized him at the Capitol. I'll say at the end of February or so. So we went down there and they had a cool ceremony with the Secretary of State. And then he came to the school, I don't know, 2-3 weeks ago, I guess, in that vicinity, and talked to the seniors. encourage them to get out and participate, to vote at this meeting. But I kind of joke with them after the fact that I'm really just trying to get them signed up so that they can be in the jury pool. So that they're, anyhow, and they're like, what do you mean? It's like, well, that also puts you on, but the clerk notified me that they can actually pull you from your driver's license. So it's not just, from, but, anyhow, like I said, that's all that I had. I guess that is, yes.
I think it's
Great job.
really cool
Yeah.
that you guys are taking interest to get that done.
You know,
Probably I'm one of the few, well, I still don't know your schedule, but I know you don't have a lot of spare time to be dealing with that, and so it's
No,
appreciated.
like I said, it's a good thing for our community. It's a good way to spark conversation. I try to do it at the beginning of the year. I try to get on them early and get them registered to vote. In order to vote, in order to register to vote, you have got to be 18 by the general election. So in years where there's a general election, there are some kids that actually can't register until after the November election. But in a year like this year, where the next general election's not till next November, it's not a problem. So as long as their birthday, and occasionally you get the really young kid, for whatever reason is 16 years old and happens to be a senior. And then occasionally we'll get a kid that maybe lives at Meadow Bridge, or they'll live over here on the south side. And so they actually live in Raleigh County or Fayette County. And so the clerk's really good about sending their stuff to the appropriate county. And then they register them there and send them their cards. So anyway, but it's kind of a cool way to start the year with them.
Very good.
Good deal.
Thank you.
All right.
Still remember the first election I went and voted in. I, like you said, I was able to register because my birthday fell after in between the two elections, but I was able to go and register early enough. I remember walking in, it's still at 17 to that first one. And I don't know if I'm supposed to be here or not.
Sometimes they question me on whether I know what I'm talking about. But the clerk brings the voting machine down, which I think helps a little bit. They're not as intimidated
right.
by the situation.
Yeah.
My
All right.
the first time I voted for Ronald Reagan. If you all want to know how old I
All right,
am.
we figured it out. You just told us.
Still a child.
All right. Thank you for your work, Mr. Bowen. Next item, we have approval of minutes from the March 26, 2024 meeting.
I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mr. McBride. We approve the minutes from the March 26, 2024 regular meeting. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the minutes from the March 26, 2024 regular meeting have been approved. Approval of bills. Yes. Give the next step out. Okay, the first bills we have before us are for Mr. Kenny Brogan, Mrs. Diane Farley, R.T. Rogers, and Safe and Sound.
I'll make a motion that we pay Kenny Brogan and Farley, R.T. Rogers, and Safe and Sound.
Second.
Motion by Mrs. Harvey, seconded by Mr. McBride, that we pay Kenny Brogan, Mrs. Farley, R.T. Rogers, and Safe and Sound. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 3-0 vote with Mr. Brogan and Mrs. Farley recusing themselves that those bills have been approved for payment. All right. We have before us now the remainder of the bills. Any questions about the bills? I did,
On the Greenbrier, the one for Greenbrier Communications, for 16,000, it says convert HAR to Paxton door system and install security cameras. Where's this at?
Supposed to be AKE, sorry, that was my typo. Okay.
And what was the reason for the conversion?
Updated equipment. So it's faulty and needs to be reported.
Make a motion to pay bills.
I second.
motion by Mr. Brogan, seconded by Mrs. Farley, that we've paid the bills. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the remainder of the bills have been approved for payment. Item 9, transfers and supplements.
There are none. Next board meeting.
Okay. Item 11, new business. We have purchases over 25,000, the 75-inch ViewSonic panels from Zones for 37,753 and 94 cents.
Basically, these displays have been purchased to replace the very oldest ones that we have at high school. These two of them now are currently not working. Touchscreen won't work. Upgrading these devices will also allow us to support and improve Wi-Fi standards. We'll also be able to support morning announcements and video messaging. So it's, I mean, they're 7, 8 years old. I mean, they're starting to be replaced. We'll keep the old ones in storage for now, potentially organize perhaps a technology sale or giveaway at a later date.
How many does this purchase us?
You know, Randolph, you need it. 7 or 8. I'm sorry. Find that out.
That's all right. I'm just curious.
No, it doesn't replace all of them.
Yeah.
It's a phase. It's like perhaps phase 1, if you will.
And do we have one in each classroom, each teacher's room? All
Are
right.
these here at the county or are they at a specific school?
This is a size.
And do those normally come with warranties? Like, how long are we covered with them? Just kind of curious.
Find that out. I'm sure we do.
I guess I'm curious, do we have like with our laptops, we have that Trafera? Yeah, I was just wondering if there was something like that for this one. So this gets us 17. Yeah. Okay, I was hoping it just wasn't 3.
It's not cheap. I mean, like the last 4 board meetings, we brought to you.
Base.
Over 25.
Yeah. Yeah. So if you want to pause for the next board meeting, we're okay with that.
I'll tell Daniel to slow down.
Well,
After we get the party.
we might not pause due to this is COVID money.
Okay.
We're trying to get it all spent down so we have all the latest stuff for our schools.
Yeah, it's not something that
Yeah.
will last forever.
I make a motion that we approve the purchase of the 75-inch ViewSonic panels.
I think once you have them, I'm sorry, I interrupted.
No.
I think once you have them, to not have them,
Mm-hmm.
it's very detrimental. I see Mr. Bolton shake. Yes.
I'll second.
like dual monitors. Once you have two, you can't go back to one monitor. All right, so we have a motion by Mrs. Farley, seconded by Mr. Brogan to approve the purchase of the 75-inch ViewSonic panels. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the purchase for the 75-inch ViewSonic panels has been approved. Item 11B, discussion or possible action to approve out-of-state trips. We have Miss Jody Weichel taking a group to the Virginia Safari Park in Natural Bridge, Virginia on April 25th.
I'll make a motion to approve this trip.
Okay, we have a motion by Mr. McBride, seconded by Mrs. Harvey to approve the trip. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that that trip has been approved. 11C, discussion or possible action to approve an MOU between Summers County Board of Education and AmeriCorps Foster Grandparent Program.
We started this last year, about a year ago, and it's just time to re-up that. The foster grandparent comes into Hinton Area Elementary, is supervised by the staff, reads the kids. It's just another wraparound service. So just, a way for a foster grandparent to connect with children, provide added emotional support alongside of learning.
This is currently just in the area, right?
Yes, correct.
Just curious how much participation we have in this.
She has been here, she's been here off and on, I'll say off and on right now. It depends on that individual's schedule, and then if there's any individuals that can step up and be a substitute, so to speak. I've heard good things about
And instead of an annual renewal, it looks like this one's for 3 years.
it. Yes.
Would it be the same person over the next 3 years, or will this person change out?
At this point, I've not heard them, they've not approached us to change. When they approached us, they had, Ms. Ruby Thompson already lined up to take on that responsibility. If she would change, then they would just bring somebody else in, is my understanding. Because the MOU is with AmeriCorps, not with that.
As far as I'm concerned, I'm sorry, go ahead. I was going to say, as far as I'm concerned, the more love these kids can get in the school that they don't receive at home, the better.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Well, then we're on the same page. Yes, I'll
Okay.
second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Harvey, seconded by Mrs. Farley, to approve the MOU between Summers County Board of Education and AmeriCorps Foster Grandparent Program. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the MOU between Summers County Board of Education and AmeriCorps Foster Grandparent Program has been approved. Item D, we have the 24-25 school calendar hearing.
Basically, this is your second meeting for people to come and give their opinion on the calendar. You have the same 2 calendars at the last meeting as this meeting. You do not do anything except listen at these 2 meetings.
Bless you.
And then the next board meeting, that's when you vote on the calendar, and then we give that to the state for their approval. But basically, they've already approved those 2 calendars anyway. We just need to pick one at this point in time.
We'll be presented with the one at the next meeting.
Yeah. What Ms. Jennings will do with the calendar committee is usually just ask the staff. Mr. Bowling can tell me if I'm wrong, just pick one, right?
Yes.
And there's only 2 choices, basically, 2 to 3, but this year we only have 2, is what the calendar committee came up with. But I did ask them to start on the 26th of August due to a big old project we're trying to get finished. So that was the last date we could push to not affect people's pay too. Because the staff starts on the 19th, that Monday before the 26th. And it does not affect their pay schedule, but you have to be understanding of that. Plus you gotta get your school calendar in that amount of time. So you don't want to start after Labor Day because it's hard to do. Memorial Day weekend is when you try to get done with the end of the school year, you know?
So does this make our last day, depending on which calendar you look at, June 5th or June 4th?
Yeah, so it's the first week in June, yeah.
Okay.
It pushes everything basically back a week compared to other calendars that we've done, yes.
Okay.
Mhm.
And really the only difference is that spring break is 1 month earlier.
Correct.
one
I
calendar.
think from the committee, from what Ms. Jones told me, it sounded to me like that was probably the biggest issue is when do you want the spring break? And because nobody argues over hunting season, which is also called Thanksgiving. So, that's not an issue there, so.
All right, any comments, questions?
You sure back there? That's the first time you've been quiet.
All right, so we'll take no action on that. And then you'll bring us the calendar to the next meeting, correct?
Correct,
Okay. Item E, discussion of possible action regarding employee climate survey. So we've been talking about a climate survey for quite some time. We went with a group out of Boston called Panorama Education. And Panorama is a third-party company that provides us a platform to do a survey on. They provide us the tools. We can go in and we can customize the survey. They also have a template where we can use a standard survey and pick different areas that we want to ask questions from, and those areas are already pre-populated with those questions. Mrs. Harvey and myself met with a lady from Panorama. She walked us through using the tool. It was about an hour that we went through that, and actually once we got in there, it was not too bad. It's pretty easy to set up, and thank you to Mrs. Harvey. She was able to go through and set up a survey here, and she's printed them off and given us each a copy. So one copy, which is the long version, this would be every question that we could ask if we went with the standard survey. Rather than going with every question that was there, Mrs. Harvey went through, and I hope you don't mind me throwing you out under the bus here. She went through and she looked at the areas that she thought would be most effective for us to get the feedback that we were hoping to get back from our staff members. That is the recommendation survey that you have. So if you all would like to take this and look through both surveys, again, this is the long version. This is the recommendation. That recommendation you'll see, and on the long version, you'll see subtopics like general school impressions. Then if you flip over, you'll see professional learning. Those are the areas that we can put in as a section. We can edit that and add that section in or remove a section. So look over these and see if there's anything you want to include that's not included, or that you don't want to include that's included. I may have said that twice. And give us feedback. We would like to get this rolled out very soon. Part of what we need to do is have a roster built in the program, and I'll pull it up here in just a minute if that's still on. And so once the roster's built, then it gets put into the Panorama software, and then this survey will get pushed out to the individuals. Now, there's two different surveys. There is a confidential, and let me pull it up because it's better to explain if we look at it.
And it's really not two different surveys, it's two
Yeah,
different
two
ways
different
to
methods.
access or collect results from the survey. And Panorama labels, one is confidential, one is anonymous.
Right.
The confidential is individual emails will go out to individual teachers and or staff. Whereas the anonymous is a link goes out to everybody. So, all or both versions, all responses are collected anonymously and confidentially. There's no way that anybody outside of Panorama employees can go in and determine individual responses. And the responses are collected in an aggregate form and reported in an aggregate form on our end through the platform.
Perfect. I think you had no problem. Okay, there it is. Oh, I need to broadcast it.
So the only benefit, or the benefit to doing what Panorama calls a confidential survey with the sending out an individual email to individual people is there's better tracking for follow-up to get higher response rates.
We can also build our own custom survey.
We
And
can,
that is something that we can consider in the future. However, by going with the template that they provide us, we can then compare results with other school districts that use this same platform.
yes.
Okay, will your laptop work up there? Oh, okay. I'm gonna go ahead and pull that around.
You want me to get mine?
So the benefit to go with the template for the preset questions that Panorama has in their system already, as Greg mentioned, if we stick with those, then we can compare and benchmark our responses versus other school districts in West Virginia, in the nation, maybe even wheel states to see how we compare and
Okay.
and then based on the responses, or after we collect the responses, Panorama also has what's called a playbook, where they have strategists who have compiled and looked at data over time and worked with school districts over several years to put together strategies that schools or school districts can implement in certain areas that we want to either improve or enhance as next step or next action steps.
Okay.
I like the recommended survey.
And so based on the questions that are selected, that recommended survey is approximately 22 minutes to complete. Depends on how quick you read, how slow you read. I'm a slow reader. So,
I feel there'll be an interest in completing the survey.
What's that?
I feel that there will be an interest in completing the survey.
Oh, I do too.
Yeah, so the areas that the survey could cover: general school impressions, professional learning, leadership, connections with families, evaluation, resources, relative responsibilities, plans for the future, perceptions of learning and readiness, background information.
no, you're.
And
Sure. So I focus on. Then when that all goes back, really. Okay.
good as any.
And after this, we might even get feedback from someone that says, I really wanted to see questions about such and such, or.
Yeah, and so one of the thoughts that Greg and I had as we were talking and looking at building the survey is there are some really great areas and questions that might not pertain to the first launch of this,
Mhm.
but that we could add next year. This would just serve as a baseline.
Great idea.
Why are they asking for like gender, ethnicity, and date of birth? What's going on with that?
Those are demographic, they're not asking for date of birth. It's what decade were you born?
Well,
So,
okay,
so these are typical demographic questions. Part of the background section that helps determine, EEOC data, can also help determine, is our population more female? Is it more male? Are we with the decade that you're born in, are we heavier in, seeing a population getting ready to retire out, and we're not backfilling with some younger teachers as much? It just gives you some demographic data that you can also apply to then some of the other areas like professional learning and or say leadership, and how different demographics respond in different areas as well as you slice and analyze the data.
And that's a valid point. Jay and I are born in the same decade, but we would view things differently than you or Greg. Kenny, you were in the same decade too.
And if certain demographics are under a certain value that becomes where it's too small and it's too obvious as to, that might potentially identify a person, they won't report on that. It will show up as NA.
That's good.
Let Brett answer it. It's not a big deal.
Right.
did they ever talk about their attorneys when they run this stuff through them? The only reason why I'm asking is because with some of our, Mr. King, can you correct me if I'm wrong, bold right say when you ask about certain gender or date, that can get into a discrimination. I'm not saying that this is, I'm just saying, do they vet it through there? Because you're starting to identify certain people. I get the decade thing to a point, but if we're looking at a climate survey, I would like to know more how people are feeling. I could care less if they're male or female or what year they were born. I understand the data is saying, but what if this group doesn't like a certain way of being talked to because this generation has always been under social media? We'll use that example. The people at this table, we didn't have social media and cell phones at our fingertips until we were much older. So I get that point of view. Is that what that's basically asking for? Is maybe the communication between people because of their generation that they were born in, or, I mean, because that's why I'm just trying to find out why that is part of a climate culture survey, that's all.
It could be. One of the things that in the past in my day job that we have used these for example, we have looked at employees who are 1 to 2 years on the job and 10 plus years on the job. And the drop off of responses of extremely positive to not at all positive.
Right.
And so when you start to dissect and segment into some of that data, it can start to tell you why you score a certain way in a certain area.
And I saw that question. I like that because if you haven't been in the public setting, we'll use alternatives. Like we have some people that have never gone to college to be a teacher, but they went to college and then they went through the alternative certification program.
Right.
I get that because everybody comes to us different, the traditional or non-traditional, just use it that. But I see the years on there. I like that question.
So, I mean, and the other part is those are optional. They don't have to be responded.
That's what I was gonna ask. They don't have to, it doesn't have to be filled in order to accept the other answers, right?
All right, so here is, when you look here, we have getting started, so go back and where I was going. Here we go. So there's a checklist. Again, Megan's already started with the recommended portions of the survey. So we've had several work sessions where we've talked about a survey and what we would like to achieve, information, feedback we would like to get. We selected the survey content, but that can be changed. Again, that's a recommendation. We have, of course, our technologies are, we have technology already. Everyone has access to a computer in our system. And the survey, again, as you have there, it's been created, but another one could be, we can edit it however we need to. The roster is going to get uploaded. Once that roster is uploaded, then we send an email with a link to complete that survey. There's a time frame that we would let that survey run. We could let it run. The recommendation from the lady who provided us the training was 2 weeks. They let it run for 2 weeks. Then we would close the survey down, and the results would be compiled by Panorama, and then they would give us a general overview of the results. Again, it would be anonymous, so there would be no names, no way to connect the response with the individual. There's also some free text options in there where they can give us some feedback through free text as well, and that would be provided in a report from Panorama. If you want, you've got the survey in front of you on paper, but if there's anything you want to see in the Panorama tool, you can pull it up and look at it. If you're good with what you got there, then if you all will look over that and come back at the next meeting on the 16th with any suggestions, we can make any changes we need to. Okay. Well,
Sounds
we
good.
did a whole lot of setting this up for.
Thank you for the.
That's it.
Thank you.
So, what we need to do next is, we need to establish a time of when we want this to go out. So if we can get the feedback back from you all at the next board meeting, then that's on the 16th. We should be able, will Daniel be able to build the roster for us with, staff emails? It needs to be in a CSV file or an Excel spreadsheet.
I'm sure.
Okay,
Yeah.
if he's got that where he can just pull it all into that spreadsheet, and then that gets uploaded into Panorama, and then they will, once we're ready to push the survey out, it will go to all the emails that he puts in that CSV file.
Deadline format.
Okay, so if he could do that for us, if there's any way he could do that for us by the next board meeting, if
Is
the
that
week,
next Tuesday?
next Tuesday, could we do it then?
I'll check with him
Yeah,
tomorrow.
Okay.
I'll just
We can
text you
put
guys.
it on the
let you know.
agenda, and
Yeah.
if it's all falls together, then
Yeah.
we'll see.
And then, if we have come up with what we want on the survey, and if anyone has input, please provide that. But then, and we have the CSV file, we can get this pushed out end of next week, early Monday of the following week.
Perfect. Then we
Go
can have
2 weeks, and then
everything
we'll
back.
have everything back.
Perfect.
All right, any other questions, comments about the Panorama survey?
Thank you, Ms. Harvey. and Mr.
Yep,
Angel.
thank you, guys.
Ms. Harvey did most of the heavy lifting on that one. Thank you.
It's our pleasure.
All right, so, next item will be discussion or possible action to approve the FY 23 financial statement.
That blue, yeah, blue folder there of information. Did you want to talk about the auditor's report?
Yeah.
I mean, the good news is we're doing really well.
Yeah, I scrolled right to the last page when you guys sent it out to us and I asked the question on the findings and
So these
So
are
it's-
the exact same financials that were presented to you at the end of the school year. It's just taken that long to get it audited and back. And like Mr. Bergen said, if you go to the last page, there are 3 findings listed, but that's actually follow-ups on the 3 findings from the previous audit, so FY 22. And as you can see, they were all corrected by this year, so there were no new findings. So that last report just says that there were no new findings, and that our report was unmodified and there were no deficiencies. So that's a good, clean audit. The other thing I would point out is because last year there were deficiencies and findings, that puts you in a high-risk category and you're automatically in a high-risk category for 3 years. So we'll have this year and next year, and then after, if we get a good one next year, then we can go out of the high-risk category. High risk just means they do a bigger sampling and they check more stuff than a normal audit sampling. That's all it means. Is there any questions?
So this audit's here at the central office, but there's a page here about talk at Jumping Branch, Hinton area, Summers County Comprehensive. So how far do they go into those findings?
So the financials include all of it.
Okay,
However, we internally do the school.
okay.
So I performed, well, not just me, Kayla helped me and Mr. McClure from Greenbrier County. The 3 of us went out and did the school audit. We can do that. The state allows us to either do that internally or hire somebody. If you hire somebody, it is quite expensive. The high school is the biggest thing that has the most money throughout this county. So I think it is something we can do internally quite easily. Kayla comes from an auditing background, so she was actually very efficient at it. I'd like to utilize her more in the future for that, honestly. She was actually better at it than I knew what I was doing. So I think we can do that internally going forward, but, so we pull this sample and check.
And when we go to credit card only, is that gonna make it easier for you all to do that? Or is it really gonna make a difference?
Well, we're not technically going to credit card only. We're going to accept credit cards.
Okay,
We're still going to do cash. If we went to credit card only, that's an option. We'd have to change a few things because our internet speeds aren't great everywhere. So for like games and stuff, we would have to be able to have a port.
okay.
That would make it a lot easier because most fraud comes from cash.
Mhm.
So anybody who steals, cash is your way to steal it easily.
Mhm.
So that would take out that, but honestly, like, we haven't seen any sign of any of that. We did suggest a couple changes at the high school just to have 2 people check everything, which they do 99% of the time anyways. So that won't be a hard change. Now the principals have access to view everything. So only one person has access to make transactions at the school, but the principals can view it, so they can see what's going on a more regular basis. And of course, me and Kayla also have that access, and we go in and check anytime there's any questions, or if there's large deposits or anything like that, we check that kind of regularly.
So you said only one person has the ability to make transactions?
At the school level,
School.
the financial secretary is the one
So-
who does that.
How do you handle a situation if they would be out for an extended period?
So myself and Kayla have access.
Okay. So
At
you
the
all
high
could do
school
that.
level, we do need to discuss if we want both secretaries to do that when we go to taking their credit cards,
Mhm.
which should be up online sometime this month, honestly. We just haven't, we don't really have any protocol for that because it's new, so we just need to decide how we want to start next year with that.
Okay.
And if we do that, we could make the second person at every school because it's on a different platform, it connects, but we could give them access to that platform only to accept it, not to reconcile it. So the financial person could reconcile it all.
We also would like to look at a credit card for each school, because when we're booking for, like, if a principal is booking a hotel for a staff member, these hotels are not taking checks anymore. It's not, it's nice that we can do the check, but most of them want a credit card.
Right.
It's not just
Yeah, we've
hotels,
ran
we're
into
running
that.
into a
Well,
lot.
I'm
of
using
things.
hotel because that's
Hotels are the
where,
most.
that's where people go for professional learning and stuff of that nature. But we also have field trips and,
Yeah.
you know,
We've run into
overnight.
Well, and it's not, and we've had this discussion, I think you and I may have discussed
Yeah.
it too. It's not good to send a chaperone and 10, 20 kids out with several $1,000s.
I agree with you.
It's another level of risk that we don't need to take.
I think to combat that, next year, we're looking into getting each school a credit card. We just need to come up with a protocol since there's never been a protocol here for credit cards. And then I also think on the county level, we need to establish some kind of a travel credit card situation. Still need to figure that out, but we're working on it.
Yeah, I'm having her look at other counties, and we can always work with Trey with our policy. But I would like some sort of policy to say, this is how we do it, and we're done. Because boy, once you get a credit card, you know, you want checks and balances
Right.
for everybody. You know?
The other side of that, from what our travel cards are, we have to, if we are going on travel, we have to call and get our limit raised. Otherwise, our limit stays at $1.
Right.
And that
Yeah.
way charges can't be
Right.
placed on it until that travel is approved.
It's just gonna depend on how we set it up here. If it's just one card for each school, they'll have to use it for a few other things too, but, generally, we have our one main credit card that we use for county stuff. We have two other ones, their limit is $5,000. So they can't do anything, we don't really use it for a lot, but there's a transportation one because we have to send it with bus drivers on trips
Right.
and stuff like that. It's at $5,000, so I would assume we would probably go with something like that at the school level. Maybe a little higher at the high school unless they had something planned and approved, and then we would raise it for those specific.
Right.
Plus, we can have a checkout book. So let's say you are the teacher going on the trip, instead of carrying all that money, they just sign their name on this date. I checked this credit card out. I went on this trip. They bring it back. You got your receipts. It's a lot easier to handle that way too.
Yeah.
Some of the hurdles there, policy 8200 was made in the 90s. Doesn't really account for internet purchases and credit card purchases, so doesn't exactly line up with that. So I think our best bet is to follow what other counties have already done until 8200 is updated. When that'll happen, I don't know. They've been telling us for 10 years it's happening and it hasn't happened yet. So that would be our biggest hurdle there. So I do want to point that out. But it's just because the policy isn't up to modern day purchasing, honestly.
Guys, as a team effort, the whole county's doing a better job. Everybody's doing a much better job, and our financial statement shows that reflection with all the training we've been doing, so.
Yeah, I would like to point out that I was only here for a month of this stuff, so this was not me. This was the directors that had been here and Ms. Crook that had corrected all of this stuff. This was all prior to me coming. So I want to give all of them credit for all of the corrections that have happened. Any questions on that?
Thank you. Thanks. Do we need to approve this? Okay.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So I'll make a motion to approve the FY23 financial statements.
Second.
Motion by myself, seconded by Mr. McBride to approve the FY23 financial statements. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed? Opposed, abstaining. Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the FY23 financial statement has been approved. Item 12, we have personnel. We have resignation retirements. We have substitute service, extracurricular professional, auxiliary coaches at Summers County Comprehensive High School, and substitute teachers. The names have all been listed. We have effective dates. They've been posted as in the agenda is required. As far as the last two, do we know when those are going to be effective? The substitute teacher and the auxiliary coach?
It'll be effective tomorrow.
Tomorrow, okay. Just 9, 14. Thank you.
I'll make a motion that we accept the superintendent's relations to personnel.
I'll second.
Have a motion by Mrs. Harvey, seconded by Mrs. Farley to accept the superintendent's recommendation for personnel. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that the superintendent's recommendation for personnel has been approved. All right, now we're going to jump back to item 10. Item 10 is back to the discussion or possible action regarding policy Roman numeral 7-A-10. This is Summers County's expected behavior in safe and supportive schools.
I want to ask some specific details about some of this. And so for that reason, I'd like to go into executive session. I move that we go into executive session, code 698-4.
Second.
Okay, we have Mr. Brogan making a motion to go into executive session, West Virginia Code 6-9A-4, seconded by Mr. McBride. Is there any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstaining? Let the minutes reflect by a 5-0 vote that we approve going into executive session. The time is 6:11 p.m. All right, so we'll adjourn the executive session. I'm sorry, re-adjourn.
Enter.
We will come
Exit.
back to our regularly scheduled meeting. Executive session adjourned at 7:04 PM. So we are at item 13, superintendent's report.
Let me hand this to you guys, because I'll talk about this in a minute, but I just need to keep one, well, just leave one for it. We've already talked a little bit about the levy, and I gave you guys that information about the note, so I don't think we need to really discuss that anymore, and we have a date that we've all agreed on, but, Chad and I will be going to see Governor Justice at the SBA meeting to receive close to 700,000 for the CTE roofing. So that'll be a huge gift to our county, which we're really appreciative of that from the School Building Authority. Tomorrow, Mr. Kuhn is going to Concord University. He is going to put the full court press on. He is going to recruit new people to come to Summers County Schools. He's gonna do like we've done in the past, except not all of us are going, but he's gonna take that orange folder of information all about Summers County and talk to people who will be teachers. So we will be at a job fair trying to recruit new people. The calendar that I have in front of you all, kind of want to walk you through this. This can be a little confusing, but, do know that this is just for you guys to see visually what we're trying to get accomplished. On the left-hand side, you see April highlighted there and 19 circled. Okay, that date is the date that electrical panel that'll run the current building and the new building. That is the piece we've been waiting on for over a year to come to us. It is sitting in China and it's supposed to ship out on the 19th.
Through Baltimore.
I hope it's not through Baltimore, but anyway, if it is through Baltimore, maybe they'll change it. That could cause a problem. But, that, do what?
I don't think it's coming through Baltimore. Most China shipments come through LA.
Good.
Well, that's the question of the day is, we'll know if it is shipped out on the 19th or not. So I just hope it's shipped out on that date, because if it is shipped out on that date, it'll probably take 5 to 10 days to at least get to us. And most likely it'll be closer to 10 to 15 days, most likely, because you can't expect it to get there that quickly. But having said that, we are going to keep an eye on that with our meetings with Radford and McKinley and Associates. Okay, so it moves us to May. May is a quick month and very busy. I'm giving this to you to show you this because we have to shut that building down a week when that part comes in. If we wait till the first week of June, at the last meeting we were at on Tuesday with Radford and McKinley Associates, Radford said, well, this will push us back to completion date in August of 27. You guys saw that the calendar says we're starting school on the 26th. That is not an option. We're not going to do that. So what I'm trying to do is find where we could work out a schedule where it doesn't interrupt state testing. So if you look there, we have state testing on the 6th, 7th, and 8th. What we could do is we could shut down the electricity maybe on the evening of the 8th. For the students who miss those dates to test, they have the 9th through the 24th for makeup days. You see that on Monday and Tuesday, you would have election day, no school. We got a 2-hour delay start, and then we have graduation on Friday. The problem we're dealing with is trying to fix a situation that is very difficult right now and the worst timing to shut down that facility. We do have a gymnasium above us. We have Talkit Gym. We could test kids in those facilities if we needed to. And the other students, we could bus them to different things that they could do, like pipe stem. We could do some trips to other places. I've talked to Mr. Boone. He said we could make that happen with our bus drivers, where they could take them to a different part of whatever the teachers could come up with that would make it more educational. Our seniors' last day is on the 10th. So when you look at that, we're trying to make a better bad decision on how to shut that facility down so they could bring that part in. Now, I don't like this, but I have to get the system running because we can't put any flooring down until the humidity level or the moisture level or whatever level needs to get to a certain place to be able to put down not only flooring for the gymnasium, which is a huge, huge lift that's made of wood, but also all the tile that goes on the flooring. So at this point in time, I just want you guys to keep us as a visual as we try to figure out how to make this work. I still don't like this.
13th through the 17th wouldn't be your bad decision.
Oh, yeah, we could look at that too. What I'm saying is we could start looking at dates as early as that Friday possibly and shutting down and trying to squeeze it in. But the problem is if we have rain on graduation day and I don't have the electric on the 17th, where do you put all those people? You see what I'm saying? So that's the push and pull. So Mr. Metter and I are meeting with Kevin Radford, the owner of Radford, and is it Mike with KW? Mike is with KW Electric. We have been very impressed with KW Electric. They have been on top of everything. So I want those two owners to work with us to make this work. And we got to find out how to make this happen, guys, because I wasn't at the last meeting. I was gone. Mr. Metter was there and he saw that date that they put August and he knew I'd gonna come out of my skin on that one because there's no way we should have that as an option. We should be done in July.
With electricians, I can just say real quick, the head electrician, Mike Woodson, I think what their plan is to have 3 crews and work around the clock. Take like 5 days. So it's a very.
Would it be a fair question to ask them if they could get the power in the gym first?
Well, that piece they're putting in, it's both. It's got a talk. It has to balance. So I don't think once you turn on something, it's going to be for the whole thing because that's when they find problems.
Temporary power managers, but there really is the cause of that shutting off. So
If we have great weather, then the football field works to a point, because if someone wants to go to the restroom, we would have to bring porta potties in there because you can't really go to the restroom in there if there's no power to pump the water and, see and all that stuff. You don't want to, it is a better bad decision. We're trying to figure this out. So Mr. Metter and I will be meeting Thursday morning at 9 o'clock with those two gentlemen. We will have our clerk of works involved with that too. But we'll get you guys up to speed by next Tuesday with the next board meeting and keep you guys, we're gonna have to keep you really in the loop on this one because this one is going to be a tight schedule to fit into, but
How big's the graduating class?
85?
80s.
Is it 85 that are graduating this year?
Roughly 85.
Okay, so around there.
Possibility of relocating the graduating ceremonies?
If you limit
Tickets.
the amount of people.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, I'm sure there's other locations. I mean, I'm trying to think in the community.
Talk at Jim. It just wouldn't get much.
I mean, you could go upstairs. I mean, it's just, I mean, it could be blazing hot or it could be pretty cool.
Yeah.
I've attended a few down at the high school in the gym. That was blazing hot.
Yeah.
But the one above
It's no
you,
fun.
the one above you, if we moved it there, yeah, it would only be hot, but we also try to keep them to an hour, so that could be, but that's what we've been looking at, is there another location to hold that many people? I hate to turn people away with parents and grandparents and family members. That's a huge celebration. But we'll keep you, there's no final decision. I just wanted you guys to see visually what, because if I told you this, you'd be like, oh, wait a minute, I gotta look at this and see what it looks like. But that's where we're at this point in time for my report, sir.
Okay, thank you. Discussion on next agenda. So April 16th, here, that's just gonna be our statutory meeting. Then we have a meeting on April 23rd for
Sorry.
Talcott Elementary.
We might need to put that at the cafe because I think there's boys basketball up in this gym.
Okay.
I think, is that okay to do that?
Yeah,
The cafe?
Yeah, it works for me.
Okay.
So
Just we'll cross
April
out-
16th at the Summers County High School Cafe.
Okay. Sorry to interrupt you, but
No,
it just
that's
hit me. Mr. Bowling has, yeah.
We had originally told him we'd be on the 18th. We made
Yeah.
the schedule. I hate to.
Yeah, we hate to mess with
Okay.
the little,
And
that's not
at-
right.
To 5 o'clock. So, for that agenda, let's go ahead and, even though it's a statutory meeting, we can add other items to it, can't we?
Well, what you do is you have two meetings in one night. Statutory, you
We're
just
gonna
reset,
recess
and
it.
then you start a new meeting to run the people's business, yes.
So we can't, but then that,
Now, you can put down at one time is the statutory meeting,
mhm.
and then you put on the agenda that you have.
Literally like 10 minutes later.
Yeah, you do. It's 10 minutes later.
Yeah,
what we've
but-
been doing.
But then that's gonna create us 3 meetings
What do you mean?
in the month of April.
You already have to have 3 in April.
Right. We're gonna recess the 16th,
Mm-hmm.
so that's one. Okay, then it would give us 4 meetings. It would give us tonight, the recessed meeting, the people's business meeting on the 16th, and then the meeting on the 23rd. Am I wrong on that? If we recess and then do additional business on the 16th, does that make 4 meetings for that month?
We'll say, Mr. Ranger, what we've done in the past 2 years
Mhm.
is have the statutory meeting, which takes about 5 minutes,
Mm-hmm.
and then recess, and that's when we've always done our personnel season for this year going into next year.
Yeah.
Okay,
It's like 10 minutes later, what
Okay.
we've always done.
all right.
Yeah.
So then for that, for
What
that
would you like on
16th,
that?
let's go ahead and put on there the, discussion for, the parking lot at the Tabernacle.
Right.
And if we don't have anything, we'll just postpone it to the next
Right.
meeting. There's something else that we
Let's
had.
talk about the 25th being, it's not the agenda item, but the levy meeting. And that is also the same. There could be some beauty in this. There could also be some chaos. That's the youth league championships down at the high school. And the doors open at 5:30. So if you had that levy meeting at, say, 4:30
Okay.
or 5 o'clock, because I think games start at 6, and just try to end at 6, you may get great attendance.
Oh, okay.
What if we have it at halftime?
Let me quit.
Sorry.
If you want popcorn, wait, try.
So let's put that on there, the parking lot resurface.
Did you also want you guys wanted the survey on there?
Yeah,
too,
let's
right?
put that on there and let's see where we are with that.
Okay.
Chad, I have, as far as that goes, I'll send you this CSV file.
Yes.
And this is what we'll need filled out and then uploaded back in. So,
Just send me the particulars, and if I have questions, I'll let you know.
yeah, and if Daniel needs help getting logged in or where to upload it, tell him to reach out to me.
Will do.
Any other items for that meeting on the 16th?
Either the 16th or sometime in the near future, I think a presentation from Ms. Gum and or the foster grandparent program to explain the participation that they've experienced, just
The benefits of
some
it?
stories,
Okay,
good stories.
so sometime in the near future though.
Mhm.
Okay.
All right, then we also have April 23rd, Talkett Elementary, 5 PM. That's going to be their LSIC. And this has already been mentioned tonight, the town hall, April 27th at 8 AM. I will not be able to make that April 27th meeting. We're having a men's retreat in the Cranberry Woods, and I will not have cell
you will
service or
not.
anything, so.
Take warm clothes, you never know.
So,
Yeah, don't miss that one.
any other items?
I will not be at next week's meeting either, work commitment.
Okay,
On what one?
next week.
16th.
How does that work on the 16th if there are missing board members?
Will be available by phone to cast a vote.
At 5, maybe.
Five.
Would a different time work better?
5:45-ish.
How about, can can
You
make
name the
another-
time, we'll be, because we really need to have,
Unless the board would wanna have a,
well, we're trying to keep from an extra meeting and like you guys, you know, save money. I don't know how to say
the
it.
only reason is Ms. Harvey is, there's one action, you have to have the full membership of the board.
Yeah, I should be able to call in.
Would a different time work better for you? Later,
I
earlier?
think 5 would be fine.
Keep
Okay,
it at 5
all right, and it'll be,
at the cafe, so
Yeah,
we
be
have
quick.
signal there.
okay,
Thank you very much.
all right, any other agenda items? Just want to throw out a reminder here, it's not on the agenda, but I do want to, before we adjourn, well, I can do it after we adjourn. Mr. McBride, you go ahead.
All right, I make a motion with adjourn. The time is 7:23.
Just want to throw out a reminder to you all,